gave me. Two of these maps have been not great for Orbit, including this one. Orbit is 0-3 combined between Sky and I believe is I lost myself Villa. 0-3 on those two maps.
Yeah.
So not great maps coming out for them. I think Cafe is a good pick from them. We saw how good they were against Method on that map, but it's kind of going to be really important that they have to find a way to win one of the other two maps. And I mean, if they lose their own map pick, I just don't see them really winning maps 1 and 3. So this is kind of a big one.
Definitely going to be an important map as Osa finds her way off the board. A weird ban to see on a map like Skyscraper, but definitely those talent shields can be impactful, and especially the way that Arial, Rise, ACAD like to go for those more heavy direct hitting pushes, and maybe it's kind of to alleviate that top black take that so many teams love to do on the T room. That could be the simple reasoning for the ban behind the talent wielding operator.
Yeah, and I think you can still run it, especially with the Monty up. But yeah, it definitely gets rid of a large possibility, I guess, of it. Restricts a big operator, powerful operator that's involved with that hold, or I should say take. And Azami and Valkyrie going off, I'd say pretty standard for the most part. That does leave the Solus up, which can be really powerful on this map. But Azami going off is definitely interesting. You don't always see it on this map. You don't always really see her brought out, but I mean, we've seen the potential that she's had for a really long time, ever since she's come out. And I guess neither of these teams really want to deal with it or see that potential, but you do see BJL locking in that Solus early. And I'm going to expect Orbit to try and play off the back of that. You don't always see Solus slip through that ban phase, so both teams going to have to try and utilize that operator to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, and Orbit typically bans Solus or Valkyrie, so they elect to go for the Valkyrie this time around. But mostly, they elect to get rid of the Solus and obviously the Spec IO sensor coming from her. Nonetheless, though, Flores, also the typical Arial Arise ACAD ban, not going to be in play this time around. So both teams deciding to kind of change up their strategy on their own and to go more so for the blood of their opponent and trying their best to counter them out as they can.
As they can. So true. And I like this hold, especially. You have the bandits for the across, and I don't know if they're using it all too much. That VIP wall is not really gone. The main thing that I would note, though, is that you look at that composition from Arial Arise Academy, there are no EMPs, and now there's no Thermite as Amp gets taken down from a nice early aggressive play from Inrio, getting himself on the board early in this one.
Yeah, that's a big pick. Taking out the Thermite, that is going to make things so much more difficult here for Arial Arise ACAD. You've got to work now with Reverse, who's got those Selma breaches, but as someone who is more of a aggressive player and likes to be on the front end of most gunfights, now you've got to step back. You've got to be a more supportive player, being the last hard breach alive for your team. And also, it's just going to be much more difficult to work your way around this map, especially with less bodies. And Amp is a very good gunner at that, and has done a wonderful supportive job for Arial Arise ACAD throughout the season. Yeah, that's a heavy hit to take off the bat.
Yeah, in that position that he was going to hold it, it doesn't necessarily hurt as much from where he was going to be, as they're still able to push pretty well off the most of this. But Ashen is now in a spot where he can be isolated if he's not careful. Has to try and stay alive over here, but that is a great spot for him to be. That's a lot of pressure on the map that position has caused, as Wimpy taking a lot of damage over here. You don't want to see this player go down as Ambi goes big and finds a kill back onto CZ. One of the main impact players that we've seen for this team so far, this Orbit team, is Ashen finds another kill on top black. We just said how impactful that position can be with the pressure that can be there. And now Arial Rise Academy have flipped this round on its head.
Yeah, but Giddy's able to get a nice response, and now as the round continues to whittle up in pace and attack, Kento finds the pick on the BJL, but these bodies are traded back and forth consistently between both teams as Wimpy evens things out back now. Working his way through the long hallway, but Kento finds the headshot onto Giddy. Wimpy was one of those players that really struggled against Arial Rise ACAD when these teams faced off last time. So for him to step up and win this 1 versus 2 could be a massive impact statement, especially after all the flack he took in the all chat in that round. Nonetheless, though, Arial, Arise, ACAD decide to work their way on for the pick. Wimpy with a very nice headshot, and now should be aware of Kento, who has made himself known inside of Geisha. Wimpy positioning himself behind the bomb chassis, waiting for Kento to make a move, and that is a big statement for Wimpy to start things off in this match. Someone who struggled in their last match against Arial Arise. ACAD finds a 3-kill and a 1 versus 2 clutch.
Yeah, and he's been the one kind of struggling for this roster. It's like both teams have that one player who's had it. It's really Reverse, who hasn't been playing to his potential, and it's Wimpy for Orbit, hasn't been playing to his potential, and that's a big one to get under your belt so early in a series like this, to really get your confidence going, and as a team be like, all right, we have all 5 players firing on all cylinders. This is our game to win now. And a great clutch from him, some nice shots, beautiful shots coming in, and now they give themselves a big defensive win. And we've seen Sky can really be a defender-sided map, so being able to wrap these rounds up are really important for this team, and you gotta love rounds being won that way. And I think that round, Mason, is a telling tale of what we're going to be seeing in this series. I think that couldn't describe this series anymore.
I think so too. To see Wimpy win that clutch really puts good eyes for me when I'm looking at Orbit, because if Wimpy is on one today and is able to step up as the player who has lacked a little bit, although his job mostly is to provide information and kind of solo lurk, he does a great job of distracting enough of the opposing team usually in the matches to find success for the rest of Orbit. I'd like to see him really step up on the guns, because he can, and he's shown it before. If he does that, I see Orbit potentially with an upset win over Arial Rise ACAD, who have, well, won the last 2 seasons of SCS, so, or SFCL.
Would be pretty crazy if they were to be taken down this early on in the playoffs. But
unheard of.
Let's not go too crazy. You know, it's only been 1 round. A lot of siege yet to be played as Arial Rise Academy opting to go for more of a horizontal take, and you see Ashen now on that Thermite, and interesting role swap, but we have seen him kind of take more of a supportive role at times with this new iteration of the roster, which kind of weird to see, because that's not something we've really seen Ashen do over his comp career, but obviously it's something he's more than capable of doing, as he's been able to show throughout this entirety of this season.
I like the leadership it shows, though, from Ashen. I love this cutoff here for Reverse to force Giddy to play in this spot. He cannot leave inside of Drum, and I'm a little worried as to why it's taken Arial Rise, ACAD, so much time to get through, but finally they explode on and get the kill. It is traded out, though. Giddy does find a C4 kill, and Wimpy as well takes out Ashen, so they're struggling a little bit here, but Reverse hops in, whiffs the shots, though, and that's not what you want to see. You want him to be landing those against Inrio to bring this round back.
And not Mira, no way he's going to go for that. What an unreal play to make for Inrio as he gets taken down, but BJL gets one right back as Reverse goes through, downs 1 player. Not sure that he has another idea that Wimpy is in this corner as he finds the kill and leaves Kento in effectively a 1v2, but CZ finding the kill as Orbit take a pretty nice 2-0 lead to start off this map 1.
And I feel like Arial ACAD just have not really gotten their footprint on the map. They haven't been comfortably able to open these walls and force these defenders out of positions convincingly. And that's what I'm concerned about so far through these first couple attacking rounds, is simply the lack of pace. Usually you see this team working rather quickly, being kind of more explosive on their attack. Sure, it's their map pick, and yes, this is a little bit more of a defensive map, so you expect AAA to more than likely ride it out on defense, but still, they're struggling a little bit much, and Wimpy at 5-0 is certainly a good sign if you're Orbit.
Yeah, absolutely, and none of your impact players that have been really carrying the most load, the heaviest load throughout the last couple of games, BJL and CZ, with them yet to get going and them to be up 2-0 and finding that kind of contribution from Wimpy this early is definitely a positive sign for them. But like we said, it is very early, but this is Arial Rise's pick. And they want to take advantage of what they have so far, and they haven't yet been able to do it. And I think this is the round that you're going to need to see the momentum shift for them if they're going to be able to really muster up some attack rounds here.
This would be an important one here for AAA, but they've lost 3 drones early on, and so what? You have Ashen on the Bravo, so you are able to get some more of that information, but losing 3 drones in the prep phase is not really a good sign, because that lacks information early on in the round that you can have via your pre-placed drones, and also later round drones should Ashen go down. So that's not something you want exactly if you are AAA, and especially with Inrio, who's playing the Solus and going to be able to wipe out more and more drones as the round goes on.
Yeah, and that Solus has really shown to be good for them, and you said it, it's not something they typically like to leave up, but they've decided to do so this time, and right now it is paying off for them as Arial Arise Academy looking to take this Geisha control early, but Orbit not budging, not giving up too much ground as Inrio now back to help support. And Arial Rise Academy need to make some more progress as they have that horizontal area of the map now, but they need to turn that into something as they do just that. Amp finding the opening kill onto BJL. That's the castle going down. Maybe not the worst operator to lose if you're Orbit, but it's definitely a good thing for them as they need to turn that pick into something as they shift their sights more towards the site here, the first floor, as they just kind of ditch the upstairs take as they find the fact that they don't need as much upstairs control. They only need Geisha. They have it in Ambi. When you're hitting shots like that, gotta convert on those.
And Ambi was hitting those shots last time these two teams ran into each other, so we'll expect to see more of the fiery action coming out of the young blood. But again, still, Orbit are holding strong, but lack bodies and lack the utility to be able to hold strong against the AAA attack, which is just swarming and flooding them. Amp has taken the upstairs control. You also have the delivery control now in favor of Ambi, and Kento has even made his way deeper inside behind reception. Anyway, we're going to get these teams going into the bomb site more than likely soon enough. Ambi and Kento trying to find a way inside of the kitchen. Amp should try to stay above and hopefully help his team flash their way in. You have to win this fight, and that's exactly what you want from Ambi, who gets that pick onto Giddy. CZ able to take Ambi back down, but still in a 1 versus 2. User begins to go down here, but nice flashbangs and coverage to come through from Amp. Now the post plant is in play here for Kento as he hops out a kitchen window and gets onto the rappel. This can be a rough one for CZ to win. He'll hop straight onto the diffuser, but is there the awareness here from Arial Arise ACAD? There is, as Amp drops down the hatch, collects the pick, and Arial Arise ACAD's first round.
Yeah, and kind of a tough spot the second that bomb goes down, and almost unwinnable post plant unless Arial Arise really trolls it. They didn't do that, and they end up getting their first attack round, and it was the much-needed attack round win, and off the back of just everyone. Ambi, been their star player so far. He gets a couple of very, very big picks, and they're going to continue to need that. We were talking about it before we ended up going live, that you said, Ambi, you know, they're not going to be able to rely on him dropping 25 kills again, which, for the most part, is a true statement, but it's not something that I don't expect to happen. That possibility definitely still there for him, and they're going to need a good performance. Maybe not 25 kills. You know, that is a lot, and that is asking a lot. But, you know, it's something that you need. It's a player that you need to step up, and he's doing that so far at the early stages of this game. He just needs a little bit of help.
Yeah, Ambi is one of those guys that I expect to be one of those front runners for AAA here. As the season goes through, such a good gunner and just finds so many important picks that really clear space for AAA. Let alone that, CZ on the other end of Orbit has been a little quiet starting this match, but is slowly starting to get back into his way of play, which is fragging out. And last time these two teams met up, CZ was also atop the Orbit scoreboard, and although his performance was outshined by Ambi, he still was rather impactful. So those are the two players to really keep an eye on through this match, is who's going to be the bigger fragger and who's going to show up in a bigger way for their team.
Yeah, and I think that round was kind of big for them because it really limited the impact of the Solus, which it is in the hands of BJL now. It was before, it was in Rio, but the way that Arial Arise Academy took the map, and this is what they're going to have to continue to do, is limit the impact of that soul. It's such a powerful operator, but in the right situations, if you play your attacks well enough, that Solus can be rendered obsolete. And that's something that you're really going to want to do and limit the impact that it has. But CZ, a nice shot, barely grazing the top of the skull of Kanto and takes him down. Kento. Look at me. And it's him. But, I mean, similar take for the most part outside of the Flores, but they need to do better with that entry engagement. That's not something you want to give up, Mason.
Ashen is trying to creep his way behind this defense, and although that proximity alarm gave away his position, I still don't think that Orbit are quite aware of the sledge. And if Arial Arise ACAD can pivot off of some of this control that Ashen has been able to get at the top of Black and is able to win the fight, but no, it's Wimpy who shuts down any sort of antics that Ashen may have been up to. So many crossfires and angles that Orbit are putting onto this Arial ACAD attack. Giddy finds 2 on the round. Wimpy follows the pistol of reverse, but a nice refrag comes through from Inrio, and again, another very solid round from Orbit, simply taking the gunfights that they need, and Arial ACAD, truthfully, not clearing out the utility and not using their own utility to aid them in their initial pushes and fights against the Orbit roam.
You know what else they didn't clear out? That bottom left corner of the drum door. Giddy taking a nice little seat, getting comfortable, watching as everyone from Arial Rise Academy just slowly creeped past him and putting the shots in from behind, winning the round for Orbit. A great play from him, very aware of the situation and good trigger discipline for him to make that happen. And Orbit looking quite good so far in this game, and needing Arial Rise Academy to maybe wake up a little bit. Some missed timings, not playing everything together, and that's not what we expect to see from them, and something that's going to need to be fixed sooner rather than later if they want to scrape up some more rounds going into their defender side.
10 seconds to go.
It's a couple nice defenses here from Orbit so far. I just love the way that they're working as a team and honestly peaking and not being afraid to take the gunfights and engagements against a team like AAA. And Arial Rise ACAD are a team that are known for being gunners, right? You have Ambi, you have Kento, Ashen, Amp, Reverse. They are all known for their shooting ability. And if you're a team like Orbit and you're willing to go tit for tat, gun for gun against AAA, you are going to find yourself success, and that is what Orbit have done so far. Is they have been successful in these first couple rounds, and if they keep that up throughout the series, I expect that we could see a different result than what we saw in the first time around.
Yeah, and I think it's them really figuring out this, combination of their structure and fragging ability. It's something that I don't think they quite had a full grasp on last time they had played Arial Rise Academy, but we saw it in that method game, and we're seeing it so far in this game, and it's a good start for them, but it's still early, and they need to continue to play like this, because I don't think Arial Rise Academy is going to be playing this lackluster throughout the rest of this game. I think this is a team that, Orbit is taking advantage of what they're getting, but at the end of the day, I don't think this is the best form of Arial Rise Academy. When that full form does come out, which it will, Orbit needs to continue to have this kind of presence and pressure around the map.
The biggest difference between the last time these two teams played is that BJL has now 3 games under the belt with Orbit, and maybe even more from other scrims practices, just more rehearsal overall, versus that was his first game with the team. So obviously there are differences shown. Giddy with a massive swing out of drum, simply taking the fight to AAA. Ashen will shut down Wimpy, but still nonetheless, again, it's easy. Finds another pick. Ashen gets a pick back, but these bodies are traded back and forth between both teams. Reverse will have to clutch a 1 versus 2. He's got plenty of time to do it, but does he have the information? Does he know where these defenders are? Will walk past the mirror, but then realizes it's there and decides to think better of that initial push, as Inrio has now positioned himself nicely onto this position to stop Reverse from getting on through.
And he has a little bit of information to work with, and choosing the right place to go, but just sprints past that. Interesting. It's a odd play. I didn't expect to see that. Thought he was getting ready to swing, but he did not.
A little goofy.
A little goofy from
Little,
him.
a little silly goofiness. Not, well, yeah. I mean, there's moments here and there. I think we have some technical issues potentially going on. We're gonna try to remedy those and fix those up rather briefly here in the match. But Arial Rise ACAD, they've struggled. Orbit are taking the fights tonight, and it's continued to be the same story throughout the entire match so far, is that they love to just swing. I mean, Giddy and Drum, right, Joe? Taking those engagements, taking the fights to AAA, instead of letting them get swung, they swing. Because in this game, it's swing or be swung, and Orbit are doing the swing.
I mean, we said it. They're starting to get production now from all their players. Giddy, last couple of rounds, making the plays. CZ's doing CZ things. Rio finding his picks here and there. And what's so crazy is BJL has been their guy, him and CZ, and he has yet to really get into the game. So it's like they're looking like this, and one of their star players, I guess you could say, from what we've seen of them with this iteration of the roster, is sitting at 2-2 in 5 rounds. Not, I guess, needing to do all too much, but that's just showing how good the rest of his teammates are doing so far. And Arial Rise Academy, they're now going to attack a site that they have previously won, and it is a pretty much needed win for them, given that going down 5-1 on your map pick, it is a defender-sided map, but that is a big hole to give up.
It is. However, this is AAA's map pick, and I am kind of shocked to see how much they've struggled against the Orbit defense. Especially for how Orbit kind of got pieced up by HK Robos when they went to Shelly. And I would say that I feel like on paper, the AAA roster is a better put together team than what HK Rebels are. But maybe there's some differences. Maybe AAA are just lacking some of the information overall. Okay, yeah, my bad. HK Rebels super fan, my bad.
You gotta
I can't say that around Joe. I have to be careful.
Watch what you're saying over there, buddy.
I'm gonna have someone sent after me tonight because of what I just said. Joe's gonna get a mercenary.
That costs money.
Yeah. I guess we are broke college kiddos.
That is us. It is true.
Especially because you didn't want to visit me when I was in Cleveland this weekend.
Whoa.
I have to go to the Knicks game, blah, blah, blah.
Look at
Envy is also going to be going to the Knicks game because he is dead. And Inrio is doing a nice job of simply wasting time and some of the utility as well from the defenders. Kenta with a nice shot to place back at control, but again, Arial very slow so far on this attack and don't have much ground to show for it.
I mean, I'm taking that trade. I don't even care that it's the Solus and a great shot from BJL to end up reestablishing that man advantage as Ambi is now taken down, as well as Amp, and Arial Rise Academy find themselves at another deficit in a round, and Orbit just looking almost untouchable. But one thing to note is I think Hong Kong Rebels are very good at this map, so them kind of getting pieced up on this map, not the craziest of things as BJL finding another one. Maybe it's his turn to step up here.
Orbit are truly controlling the opening rounds. I mean, they are dominating. Reverse has been last alive what feels like so often in these rounds, and I think it's just positioning. I feel like Reverse just hasn't found the right positions to be able to help AAA pierce through the rock-solid Orbit defense that has been pushed out so far. Orbit have found the opener in 5 of the 6 rounds, and that is a problem if you're AAA, especially a team that typically thrives on the attack and less so on the defense. If Orbit is going to be that dominant, and they're a good attacking team, might I say, with the info that they bring, you better be shutting it down. And I like the Mozzie, I like the Solus, but even then, sometimes it's not enough.
No, it isn't. But it is a map that is kind of, thin in certain areas. There are choke points on skyscrapers, so that Mozzie can be pretty impactful, as well as the Solus, which you saw go into great use for Orbit, and we'll see if Arial Rise Academy can do the same. It's now their time to wield the power that is those nice little glasses that Ambi is now in possession of. So
Specchio.
it's going to be a big first round, though, a big one. They have to set the tone early and really get themselves rolling. That is the well-oiled machine of Arial Rise Academy, because quite frankly, we have yet to see that well-oiled machine.
Yeah, before we go on a match point, I'm not feeling too confident in AAA on their own map pick, because of the fact that they'd have to win 5 rounds in a row, and it's possible. It just sucks, because you have to play Perfect Siege, and you don't have any room for mistakes, so you really do have to have an impactful round here if you are AAA. As we move on into the opener, it really comes down to the information provided by Orbit to find where AAA are sitting onto the map and force them into their guns. If they're able to do so, AAA will swing, and as long as you're prepped and ready and win that fight, you're going to find success against a very aggressive swinging team like AAA.
Yeah, and that's still something they need to do, though, is they still need to be aggressive, but I think the main difference is that Orbit has been playing that aggression together and really been catching them off guard rather than just squaring up, taking 50-50 gunfights. I think that's been the key difference, and one that I guess we somewhat expected to see in a sense, because that's the Orbit that we have seen previously, and what they're kind of almost notorious for is Ambi putting that Solus to good use and finding that opening kill onto the Thatcher. A big one for that, but a big thing is Arial has found himself inside of Geisha. An odd position for the Thermite to already find himself in with the case, but looking for some assistance here, and we'll see if he can get it sometime soon.
Could be massive, though, on the cutoffs. If Arial is in Geisha and AAA are not aware, I think they are, but if they aren't, then that is really going to suck for AAA. Giddy's going to walk around the corner, but this deployable shield in the corner, and as well with Kento on the MX4 Storm, that's going to be a little bit of an easy engagement for him to win out. Nicely traded, though, for Orbit as they begin to work their way deep inside. Again, I love the information. They're Z-pinging. They know where these defenders are sitting. They're getting free kills off of it. Arial spots that had a reverse, but reverse is better in the engagement. And again, Arial, Arise, ACAD maintain this advantage as Orbit try to transition into their execute.
Yeah, and it's a great pick for reverse to get that bomb down, but they're kind of boxed in over here, but that wall being open is something for them to really use here. It allows Orbit to really see into this site right now, but they have to find themselves into T's. Wimpy isn't even sure that this Dragon side is clear. They have no idea if a player has actually fallen back. I'm sure that they're just going to get the gamble as 2 kills are found right away. Ash and Ambi finding those kills, cleaning up the round, and giving Arial Rise Academy that much-needed defensive round win.
Orbit never really got to a spot where they could work their util, work together as a team, and push on through. They had a moment when you had Arial and Geisha and got the pick onto the player in Karaoke, but they weren't able to work that leverage as Reverse shut down Arial, and that's where the round changed, right? Reverse getting that impact kill, dropping the diffuser inside of Geisha, stopping the Thermite and those flashbangs from being able to be used. That enabled Arial Rise to be in a winning position for the round, where they waited out Orbit to push them instead of over-swinging, which is something we've seen AAA do before, especially in their game against Arial Arise main, where we saw them give away so many advantages. They sat, they held their angles, they let Orbit walk into them, and played a beautiful final end of the round as a team overall.
Yeah, and that patience was really good for them. They got the aggression that they needed early on, which was something that was necessary, but they did a good job at maintaining that, as you said, and that's going to be important, but that's been the entry engagements. It's kind of told a story for the most part. I feel like I could be wrong. I don't have those numbers on hand. I'm being a bad caster and not keeping track, but I think it's mainly going to be on Arial Rise Academy to snag that early advantage as they find it again. Ashen getting that early pick, but it's going to be all about maintaining it, and that was step 1, and now it's step 2 on really holding on to what they have achieved so early on in this round.
That's in Rio, Dan. The Thermite and the main droner and information gatherer for Orbit. That is who you want to spawn peek if you're going to spawn peek someone. So well done to Ashen, who, by the way, with the SMG 11 decided to get that spawn peek. Yes, you do have Wimpy as your orbit to be able to open up some of these walls, but it completely changes how you go for this take. Instead of being able to work across the map and have this luxury of opening all the walls nice and large with Thermite, having those extra drones, you lose it all. And it's going to make this round a lot more difficult. They're going to have to try to force something here on the office side in general because they just simply lack the manpower, control, and information that they're going to need if they want to clear their way across.
And now that wall is getting open, Orbit is doing semi-good job on it. I don't think it got that. It did. Okay, it didn't sound like it at first, but they now get that wall open. But with everything else, and oh no, Ashen not able to spot Wimpy just sitting there on the ground as he's able to get that kill and even us up. But you look at the silhouettes of where Arial Rise Academy is on the map right now, and I'm not necessarily liking where they're at as Ambi looking for a flank opportunity, but sniffed out by CZ. And now Arial Rise Academy is really in a tough spot as the round success really felt like it depended on that flank. And now BJL does take down a teammate, but still advantage for Orbit.
AAA have been forced out of the site, and now Orbit begins to work those deadly grenades from below. You saw Reverse take a lot of damage overall, but Kento prone inside of top house could be massive if he finds these bodies hopping through. Also, there's still frostbats in play in this round, and if Orbit have a lapse of concentration, forget about what they're playing against, those mats could be a massive difference maker in this round. It's going to be down to CZ to win this fight. They want to fight their way on through, but BJL takes a lot of damage. Reverse actually with a nice shot to take down CZ, but quickly traded out. Now it's down to Kento to clutch this one out. Finds one, but Giddy is so close at winning this gunfight. It's a 1 versus 1 effectively. Kento is better, though, and AAA still stay in this match.
Yeah, and those are the rounds that you need to win in a series like this. Those 50-50 rounds. Sometimes they go your way and sometimes they don't, but essentially that is the difference maker in tightly contested contests. And winning a round like that is going to be big for the momentum, for their confidence, and really for the rest of this game.
Excuse me. Well, I think so. I do believe so. I think that if you're AAA, you want to be successful, you need those bodies to step up. Kento is someone who also, I feel, has had some of those lackluster games as of late for AAA. He started off really strong in the season on Chalet against Mystic, but ever since then, he's been kind of quiet. And if he steps up and it starts showing his face again, I expect AAA to look rather strong as they're starting to claw their way back into this match. They've only won 2 rounds. There's still, quite a bit of a hill to climb. But this is kind of giving me the vibes that we got from the HK Rebels game, where we saw West Garfield Park win 5 rounds, then HK Rebels slowly start to come back. Eventually, West Garfield Park made the adaptations and closed it out. We'll have to see if Orbit is able to do so and make those proper adaptations on the attack to stop Arial Rise from being so aggressive in winning these rounds.
And I think one thing that Arial Rise Academy is doing is making sure that there's always pressure, and Orbit didn't really necessarily do that so far in their attacks. They've kind of been there, but it's like they found themselves in positions, but I'm never really too concerned about it, if that makes all too much sense, because they put themselves in spots, for instance, in Rio inside of Geisha, and I mean, that round they never really were anywhere, but
Ambi.
He's not going for that. He can't possibly go for that, and again,
He really did think it, though. He really did think it. Oh, boy.
Still, Ashen finding that opening pick again. It's early, and they're finding it so early as well. It feels like most of these rounds are just 5v4s off the rip. Orbit haven't even had a 5v5 opportunity to really get anything going in these attack rounds, and that's been really the difference maker on this side so far. It's just going to be on Arial Rise Academy, and they continue to make sure that they're taking full advantage of that. And maybe not, as Giddy finds another kill onto Ashen, getting too aggressive. Kento going down as well. So much action so early.
The bodies go back and forth between these two teams, getting aggressive, then getting out, then getting aggressive yet again. CZ trying to make this restaurant entry work, as Orbit have been split apart rather far, and they have yet to deal with some of the utility. You still have the Banshees inside, or actually I believe Wimpy has hacked it, so At least you're able to walk around and avert some of the traps that have been placed by AAA. But still, they have sight, and that is the biggest part, is Orbit don't have much of a map footprint inside. They're kind of just droning, trying to find out where AAA are, but aren't doing much with that information, and Ambi is going to take advantage of the lack of information on his position, find that pick on to Wimpy, who falls yet again.
Yeah, and they've now given themselves a 3v2, a massive one at that, as the information I think is there for them. And wow, that was a crazy rotation to make, as Ambi looking to get straight into the action and getting now, finding a couple of players as well, as Amp finds that kill, Ambi as well, and the guns now really eating up for Arial Arise Academy, as they're just winning what feels like almost every fight that they find themselves in.
I'll tell you what, Joe. Enrio might have a little bit of a chalk mental. I feel like there's a target on his back, he might feel. Because he's been getting rolled off the beginning of these rounds. Unfortunately, it's been a struggle for Enrio, who has died early in a couple of these rounds. And when you're the pivotal droner for Orbit, when you're someone who gets so much information, you die. You can see in these last 2 rounds how much information Orbit have lacked going through. And that is a massive fact as to why AAA have been able to run around freely and get these kills onto Orbit unexpectedly, is the lack of info and lack of everything that presides around the map for Orbit. And the lack of Enrio, truthfully, is what is kind of impacting Orbit in this match thus far.
Yeah, you're definitely right about it, because even though that they found themselves kind of bringing these rounds back, man count wise, giving themselves advantages here and there, you're seeing that the struggle of the late round is really hurting them. That's kind of what they're losing with that information, and it's been a struggle for them. And if Enrio can kind of stay on his feet, and I mean, maybe anyone can stay on their feet, they just have to avoid dying in the first 45 seconds and really getting a full-fledged attack going. This might go a different direction. Until then, though, Arial Arise Academy somewhat smooth sailing at the moment, and it's big for them. As it was a 5-1 split, but all of a sudden we found ourselves in a 5-4 game, and Arial Arise Academy just quickly approaching so fast onto Orbit's scoreline that they worked so hard in that first half to really get to. And it's kind of not even been a fair fight in most of these rounds, but I mean, it's just, you gotta at least find a way to make it fair. At least be aware that you know that these kills, these aggressive plays are going to come in.
I think these two teams just really love to play close against each other. No matter what, it's got to be a 2-1 shootout and go as long as possible in the match. At least that's how it's kind of been throughout the season, and especially throughout this first map where we thought Orbit was just running away, and all of a sudden AAA forced a timeout after winning 3 straight rounds. Enrio is still alive, so that is good this far into the round, and hopefully that continues to track out properly as Orbit have taken the timeout, been able to reset themselves, and hopefully have the opportunity to get back on track into winning their map. Or their opponent's map, rather.
Yeah, the one thing I'm a little nervous about with those spawn peaks that Arial Arise Academy have really been doing is it kind of slows you down a little bit. When you end up going for aggressive plays like that, it makes you maybe unsure about yourself. You really have to dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure that you don't die, because you know a team has been consistently going for those plays, and it's really going to slow you down, and maybe time becomes a factor, but at least it is a better alternative than finding yourself in a 4v5 early, is, you know, wasting a little bit more time. But Arial Arise Academy have really been playing, I guess, everywhere on the map, which is kind of a good approach. For me, it's kind of how Skyscraper can be played. You pressure everywhere on the map, find where they're entering, and get over there, pressure it. And it's something that's starting to work out for them, as Orbit have really struggled to move anywhere on the map, as there's only a minute and a half remaining, and they don't really have all too much going for them.
I love AAA here, just kind of all walking around the map, free willy, and trying to find any pick and just deny Orbit of as much map control as possible. Orbit, however, have made some decent progress and are beginning to work on the extension here from AAA, getting rid of that Shrine Shield, getting rid of some of the Geisha pressure and control, but Kento finds a pick on the Wimpy. That'll slow things down and begin to stutter the sputtering offense that has been Orbit thus far.
And a definitely huge change of pace coming in, and that's an unfortunate flash as Ashen does hit the ground. That's the Warden, but look at the play from below as Kento finds 2. That's his 3rd of the round. Big for him as Inrio now left on his own to make a big play to try and prevent a tie game, but unfortunately not able to do it as Reverse cleans up the round, and Arial Academy have stormed all the way back into this game to tie us up at 5.
They were getting rolled early on in this match, but now they found the opener 4 times straight, and that is leading them to victory in these rounds. Thus far, the narrative is similar to what we saw in the HK Rebel game just a little bit ago. You get the opener, you're winning the round. That's been the case so far through these first 10, and going into round number 11, I imagine it will suit Sam. Losing your timeout and losing the round after is certainly not a good sight to see from Orbit, but there's still time to make the adaptation and adjustment, but you have to do it now, because if you don't, then you are all of a sudden on the back foot, and you might have to be real hoping that you're going to be able to win your own map pick, because you almost won your opponents, but then they all of a sudden came back.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a quick regain, but this map is quite that. We want to not allude to anything too early, as it has kind of been a back and forth action, but I mean, it's definitely good. I really like the adjustment from Arial Academy. They used that timeout and completely changed their pace. Instead of getting all up in Orbit's face, they held it back a lot and played around each other a lot more around sight and kind of just preventing. Just wow.
That is a Hail Mary of a throw. That is insane, Amp. No way they're gonna try it again, right?
They can't, right? They can't, right? They've been droned out. There's no way they go for it now. There's absolutely no way. And I don't remember. Oh yes, the pacing. But it's like Orbit has used that timeout to try and come up with ideas to deal with that fast-paced, all-up-in-your-face style of play that Arial Academy showed in those first 3 rounds, and all of a sudden, you're finding a completely different style of team out of nowhere, and all that talking about it kind of just is voided, just from a change in style and a great start from them and a great ability to do that. As
it is a bandit battery.
Come on, fellas.
It is on the floor.
Come on,
I
fellas.
mean, that is like, and it's a rare thing that you don't see often from Orbit, is simply bad information. And I feel like so far on their attacks, they just completely lack it. They have no idea anything, whether it's the utility, the player positions. It seems like they just don't have the reads on AAA that they typically do against most other teams, and I feel like that is the story and the narrative that we've seen this far into the match, is Orbit lacking that information and the ability to do the simple things that they should be good at.
It is the simple things, and maybe that's a telltale sign of where we're at, because it's so different than what we saw at the beginning of this map. We were praising how good they were as a team, as Ashen once again finding an opening kill, and it was the opposite. You know, we were praising Orbit for what they've been able to do, and knocking Arial Academy is now they're able to find it, get everything going, and find their opening picks, the entries that they are almost notorious for being able to find. And Orbit have lacked that teamwork that we've been able to see from them so far, and now we're all tied up as 40 seconds left in the round, and Mason, Orbit have an opportunity here to make it happen, but still just struggling to get anywhere close to sight and find that opening that they need.
And they lack the information yet again. Those mute jammers denying them any sort of drone. The Yana Gemini not able to force its way all the way through. You're gonna have to dive deep, and Kento kicks off the anti-execute, taking down CZ. Amp finds a pick on Nagiti, who does get one onto Ambi, but still Arial have the advantage. Inrio, though, walks in, wins his fight, but Wimpy's going to have to find 2. Not able to do so as Kento clears him out. And it's Arial Academy to take their first lead and it comes with a match point as well.
Does indeed, and that is 5 straight rounds on this defense. And that timeout not doing all too much for Orbit, and be a tough way to lose your opponent's map pick. But at the end of the day, it is your opponent's map pick, and it would be nice to steal this one, but it's not even necessarily that they are losing it. It's in the fashion that they're losing it, and it's just fundamental errors now. They're just not playing well as a team on these attacks, and it's been a struggle, but we'll see if they can kind of change that, because these are kind of mistakes, fundamental errors that can plague a team, not just on one map, but on every map. This would kind of be the similar story if we were on Cafe right now, if this version of Orbit was playing on that map right now. And they need to bring it back. Even if they do find a way to lose this map, they got to at least do it in a fashion where Arial Academy was a better team than you are at your best, because they're just not playing anywhere near their best at the moment.
I feel like I praise Orbit all season on their team cohesion, their teamwork, their ability to work together overall and overcome whatever the opponents are doing. Their 3-2-1s are something that I think they do so well, but maybe on a map like Skyscraper just aren't quite fine-tuned for what we need to see out of them. I just feel like the timing isn't there, the teamwork isn't there. There's not been the Orbit that we know when it comes to some of that aggression. Here we are, though. Match point for AAA. They have made this comeback work, as they have not lost a round as of yet on the defense. This could be the first time, though. There's always a chance for Orbit to sting back as they put themselves in a nice position on their own defensive half. Ambi gets the opener, though, on a BGL, so that's already bad signs spilling here for Orbit.
They're bringing everything out to try and get these early picks, and it's really paying off. They're finding each and every one of them, and BJL going down again, and he's had it tough. It started off as Inrio, it's now BJL, and someone has to do something about it. These early picks have been plaguing them from the start of their attack side, and Ambi been the guy. He's been really doing everything he needs, and look at the Solus right there, seeing the information. That is the beauty of it, and maybe not knowing that there's 2 players out there, but he is aware of at least one of their positions, and doesn't have the most help at the moment, as you see the Orbit players going all over the place, getting positions, strong positions from all over the place. But when Ashen is hitting shots like that, it becomes really difficult to push, as he just crosses, not able to find the shots, brings out the Bailiff.
Oh no!
There's no ammo in it, but has some impacts to work with, as he ends up throwing him, finding the kills, and Imrio once again in this 1v5 situation as he gets a second player to the ground, but they are on the verge of losing Skyscraper and a full for Arial Arise Academy.
Ashen literally threw his whole inventory to get that kill and get the frags needed. Inrio,
For everything.
yeah. Inrio's gonna have to win this one, but he's got no drones, no information left around the map. There's 2 drones somewhere, but they're dead and stuck hard in place. The smoke to come through, but that's going to alert AAA his positioning, as now he tries to walk down the stairs, but Reverse can simply look right on through the smoke, which, well, that's the perk of Ward. When you bring him, you can see through things that your opponents can't. That's pretty nice. A lot of fire to be brought here against Inrio. The beeper gives away the position. Well done to AAA, flawlessly winning every single defense, and that is why they picked Skyscraper.
That is why they picked Skyscraper, and on the attacks that they struggled on oh so much, it looked like, all right, why did we go to the hills on? So if there is a map for him to bounce back on, I don't think there's a better map for him. So that's kind of their silver lining at the moment, and they're going to need him to step it up, because you need all 5 of your players to be able to shoot back against Arial Rise Academy. That's what it takes to beat them, and I'm sure that they know that, but it's gotta go better for them. It has to on this map, and they are comfortable on Cafe. They've shown that, but they are playing a different beast here.
I'm curious to see how Orbit is going to impact the Arial Arise defensive ability to shut down their information, because no team has been. There's been some teams that are good at shutting down the information against Orbit, and some teams that Orbit has just been able to walk all over. Method being one of those teams that they simply dominated the information game with. But AAA and HK Rebels, when playing against Orbit, did a nice job of countering the information play that Orbit are so good at, and that I highly praise them for. Really, truly think that they're one of the better teams in SFCL when it comes to gathering and obtaining that info. They'll elect to remove the mirror, which means the Valkyrie and Solus will be at the dispense of Orbit, who start actually on the defense of their own map.
Yeah, they do. I messed that up. I'm sorry, guys. I lied.
That's not typical. You wouldn't expect Arial ACAD to pick attack, but to be fair, they're a team that likes those spicy, quick executes, so hey, why not?
And maybe they'll end up taking a few rounds, getting it early, and it allows Orbit to kind of restabilize, as this was their better side on this map. One, as they go to mining, something that we have seen them do before. And the one thing I do want to note, and something I could have said on map 1, but I'm happy to be able to say now, is the use of Brava or Arial Rise Academy. I don't think I've seen a team utilize her as much and even as well as they have been able to so far in this season. And I think this is a much better map for her than on Skyscraper, so it's good. We'll see how that goes out for them, and we'll see if that changes anything on their attacks, because something is going to need to change. We can talk about how they won that map 1 and the faults of Orbit, but we can't forget the fact that Arial Rise Academy also went 1-5 on their attacks. It wasn't a good side for them either, so they have to step it up in that department as well.
I like seeing Kento on the Brava, but sometimes it concerns me. Like, he does a very nice job, obviously, of getting that information and plays it very well. It's just sometimes I feel like he spends a little bit too much time on the drones or trying to hack stuff and get that information, and then you lose some of the gunplay that he's so good at doing. I mean, he is a fragger, was in Pro League for a little bit for a reason, and because he can shoot so well. So him being on one of those more reserved roles does kind of, spell rough sometimes for AAA when trying to get their initial entries. So far, though, they've made some good headway inside of top red, as Ambi is looking fast here to walk his way through. He actually spots the tail end of BJL, who's caught lacking. But the Doc able to stem their way back up, but slowly cleared out of this heavy piano position.
Oh, he ends up getting cleared out there. The nade coming through for Ambi as he's doing even more damage. Wimpy taking some as well, and Ambi just wants to get right into it, and he's looking to do just that, as 2 kills going straight through and make that 3 going the other way. Arial Rise Academy have found themselves in a huge advantage, as Inrio has found that first kill needed in this clutch position. And I'm not sure if he spotted that player. Ashen taking some damage, but Inrio definitely getting worse for wear, as he just can't get out of that unlucky spot that he has found himself in, as Arial Rise Academy open us up with an attack win, and we said that's what they needed to do, and Orbit not bouncing back very well from that map.
For a mining defense to have only one body upstairs, which was BJL, you had some utility for him, sure, but truthfully, that was it. And it's like, if you're going to defend mining, you want to defend piano with your life. You got that train hatch. You have so much to worry about. And when all you put up there is BJL, a deployable shield, a couple ADSs, and say, have fun against all of Arial Arise's utility, the nades, the flashbangs, the different window repels that you can use against that pixel position, that's not exactly the best way of defending that spot. And I was not a fan of the way Orbit chose to go about that run.
Yeah, not enough pressure over there. And they kind of just allowed players to walk up and not playing the angles that they had made correctly, but love the trash talk going through for Ashen and trying to take advantage of maybe weakened mentals at the moment, given that Arial Rise Academy has now won 7 rounds in a row, and some of those rounds in easy fashion, some of those rounds in unfortunate fashion on the side of Orbit. So I like the mental warfare coming out from him, and as they continue to try and deal damage to this Orbit side, one side that is bleeding, and looking to try and stop that bleeding, but to no avail at the moment.
Last time that trash talk was really diverted and directed on a Wimpy, who's actually been having a decent series so far. He's struggled a bit on the attack on Skyscraper, but so did all of Orbit, truthfully. But Wimpy was getting a heavy hitting, especially he started a map like 0-10. I think it was map 3, it was Villa. But Ashen just finds 2 massive picks. 3 now, completely dismantling the Orbit defense. Ambi's going to walk in, take that engagement with BJL. And CZ is last alive inside a freezer. Orbit get pieced apart by AAA. And now CZ's going to have to try to win these engagements. But Reverse even knows the positioning of the Jaeger. And it's a great play overall by AAA.
He called his shot. He Babe Ruth to that thing. He said exactly what he was going to do. And walked in and took 3 down with him.
Oh, here's where the Wimpy shoot back comes in. Here it comes. But you're real. I mean, Ashen literally just walked all over Orbit, and no one did anything about it. Where's the comms? Where's the denial to stop Ashen from being able to do such a thing? Where's the team play, Orbit? This is not the Orbit I've seen through all of SFCL throughout the first 2 and 3 games, sure. And especially even in their last match against AAA, I feel like Orbit were not this mistake-filled and this plagued by some of the plays that AAA have been making throughout the series so far.
Yeah, and I think it's starting to become more and more apparent that it may be a mental thing, and
10 seconds to insertion.
I guess I don't know where the point was, and you may not be able to pinpoint it. There may not be a pinpoint, but something needs to happen for them to regain that mental, because it's definitely hurting them at the moment, and if they don't get it back quickly, it's going to be too little too late, as they are on the defense side of Cafe. That's not a place you can put yourself on a very heavy hole, so they need to win some rounds, and they need to do it now.
Especially for how rough their attacks were on Skyscraper. And sure, they're more rehearsed and more practiced here on Cafe. Yeah, but man, there's really not much you can say. You can't lose many more of these defenses. You really got to flip things around here if you're Orbit.
Off to a good start. Haven't given up a kill yet, so that's pretty good. Like to see that.
That's all right. We love to see that. We love to see not dying. That's kind of an important thing for Orbit, as they have lacked the opening pick in the last 8 rounds this far, trailing in the last round. So it's been pretty ugly for Orbit at the beginning. Hopefully they're able to get back on track in some of those opening engagements and be able to fight their way into these rounds a little bit easier. Arial Rise are a team that typically ban the floors, but man, they love it here on Cafe. They are using it as much as possible to get so much information. Putting Reverse on that role, I think, is a great idea, because it forces him to get some more of that information that Arial need to be able to work their way in for their execute.
Yeah, and that information is coming in for them. They have a very good idea of where these players are, and just waiting to react off of it. Just waiting for the right time, I guess the best word is for that. But time, speaking of, not something they have a lot of right now. Minute 15 left in the round, and this push is going to have to start formulating quickly, as they don't have a ton of control at the moment and need to change that, as Ambi looking to be the aggressor once again, as Kento finally finds the opening, but Wimpy getting one back. Ashen trading that right on back to Wimpy, and look at the kills just left and right. That is the pace we expect in this game.
Back and forth between both teams, but technically Orbit have the advantage, as Kento has been down. Ambi and Amp will have to be the last couple to clutch, but they lack information and they lack the awareness of the positioning of BJL, who takes down Amp. Ambi, who was the star player for AAA just a week ago against Orbit, now has to clutch a 1 versus 2, and I'm not sure if he was able to spot that player inside of Laundry. It's a nice crossfire that has been established, but he's going to go for the res on Kento. A smart play, but Giddy's just going to run at him, takes down Ambi, and now Kento has to clutch on low HP. Giddy with the pre-fire of the UMP, and it ends up as a round win, finally, for Orbit to start getting back on track.
and they finally get it done. That is something they've needed for a very long time, and they finally have it happen. Giddy going big right there in that round, and something we saw a lot on their defenses on Sky was Giddy being the one to step up, and he's looking to be the one to kickstart his team, and we'll see if everyone follows suit because they're going to need that going through and continuing that momentum that they may have just gained.
That is the first round this series where the team that got the opener did not win the round. Pretty sick. Pretty sick. And Orbit definitely need more of those because they have definitely sucked in the opening engagement. They just they aren't aggressive enough. I think they're actually more timid than typical. We don't usually see Orbit play this far back and almost afraid to take some of these gunfights with AAA. Instead, they play further back, wait for AAA to come to them, which often getting swung by some of these crackhead gunners. Not a fun time if you're on the back end of it, and that's how Orbit has been for the most part in the series.
That's how they've been, but need to kind of get to a point where they can be the aggressors and not necessarily be caught off guard, because what they did so well on their defenses on Sky was being aggressive but doing it together, and they've fallen away from that completely. Really, as we've gone throughout the rest of this, and Ashen trying to get really aggressive as Giddy again finding that kill. A big opening pick for them, one that they have to turn into a round win, and we're finally starting to see them maybe wake up a little bit here.
That is massive for Orbit. Finally, an opening pick goes in their favor. It's been a whole map and then some since we've been to an Orbit opening pick. That's a good way to start it off, especially taking down Ashen, who is pieced apart Orbit in some of these rounds. CZ finally gets his name on the board, taking down Ambi with a response on to BJL. This attack is going through, and it's rather quick as you have that piano control that is so pivotal in going for that mining execute. As long as Ambi stays up here and is a pain on that hatch, well, as I say that, he dies. But it could have been real nice for Orbit or for AAA to simply walk in and work that engine execute. Instead, now they have to fall back, and especially losing that hatch control, there's not much you can do. You still lack information and lack the utility to truthfully get some sort of true push coming on through. But Kenta will rotate upstairs to try to help his buddy reverse, and they're going to have to win some pretty rough gunfights if they want to pull themselves back in this round.
Yeah, not just some gunfights. They need to do it quickly, as that time is going to become a factor at one point, as Kento looking to move on forward, find a kill, but his teammate, his compatriots, Reverse getting taken down as CZ finding both of those kills, and look at Orbit starting to sneak their way back into this matchup.
CZ finally started getting kills, and that was a big part of Orbit winning that round. Not just that, but also Orbit not overswinging, and AAA being a little lackluster in the information game. Obviously trying to enable Ashen to get that early engagement and control did not quite work out in their favor. Orbit, though, were well aware, primed and ready, and have been doing a solid job so far. Even with a slow start, eventually they're starting to get themselves back on track to where they want to be here on Cafe. A 4-2 split would be nice, and definitely preferable, especially since you started off 0-2.
Yeah, and they've at least grabbed it back a little bit, and that 0-2 start wasn't necessarily great, but I mean, you're in the best position you could possibly be in right now, and still you're having BJL struggling a lot at the moment, but CZ finding those kills was big, as he's been their star player for the most part, especially yesterday in that series against Method. So we're looking to get him right back into it. Giddy has been performing quite well throughout the entirety of this series. He's been pretty consistent for the most part, and you expect that from him, but still, they need everyone else to step it up so that they can have that kind of consistent play from everyone across the board, because Arial Rise Academy, we've said it on so many occasions, they have so much firepower on that roster, at any point, if you're taking those 50-50 gunfights, you gotta win them because it's really tough against this team.
Not much action as of yet, as AAA are trying to work their way here against Inrio, who is inside a closet and is fighting for his life against ACAD, who is, again, one of the best gunners that we've seen in amateur R6, but still, Orbit holding on to these crucial key positions, and Arial Arise ACAD with not much to show through the first minute of the round.
No, not much at all, but they're looking to make the play right now. The smoke going through. They're going to try and get rid of Wimpy here inside of VIP as he's able to find the first kill with that C4 onto Amp. And that's really going to halt this push right here. Is now Arial Rise Academy are starting to fall back a little bit, looking for answers. As at the moment, they don't have any.
There's no drones. The only drones are the clutch drones in the pockets of Kento, and you also have Ambi who could get on their Gemini replicator and get some of that information. So it's going to be down to Orbit simply winning their gunfights, as AAA have to walk in blind. They will do so, and a couple gunfights go in the favor of Orbit as Ashen finally takes care of Giddy, but still Wimpy resides inside of VIP, being a major pain to these attackers. They still have yet to deal with Inrio in the closet. They still have yet to deal with Wimpy and VIP. There's really not much that AAA got accomplished in this round, and there's not much they're going to be able to do through the rest of it, especially lacking that information that they need to be able to find their way on through the Echo drones, even spotting them out, Z-pinging away. Ashen does find a nice pick on a BGL, so all of a sudden, it's a little bit closer in this round, but Inrail has positioned himself nicely. If he loses this engagement, though, then Orbit should begin to get concerned.
They have to find Wimpy here as he's going for some kills. The second they get this kill, though, they might have this. He is pretty weak at the moment. That information is serving them quite well as he has just walked up and completely ignored Ashen as Kento going for a kill. He finds it, but Inrio ending up... How did he get that kill?
Did he get him through the wall? He must have wallbanged him through the red wall, like closer towards prep.
That's hilarious. You think he shot him through him?
Yeah, I think that's... I don't even think he shot through. I think he just missed. And I think Kento missed and ended up hitting the guy inside of, like, kitchen. Which is tough. That is unlucky. I feel for whoever that was. Maybe it was CZ on the wrong end of the stick there. But Orbit, with their first lead since the very beginning of Skyscraper, finally starting to look like a put-together team, working together, shutting down the AAA attack very nicely overall.
Yeah, they've been doing a better job, and Wimpy, I mean, it's a little bit better than, you know, what they had last time where he ends up dying and two of his teammates going down with it. Ashen just walking straight on through, and it's better, you know, and Arial Rise Academy also... You got to make a note on that as well, is that's a hero play. And one of my main things I will always tell my teammates when I played and when I still do is hero plays are not a sustainable way of winning. It's obviously a very nice thing to have to fall back on, but it's not a consistent way, reliable way to be able to win games. And for Orbit to finally start playing off of each other a little bit better, winning these fights and playing these trades is a nice thing to see from them. So we'll see if they can continue to do that as Arial Rise Academy looking to maybe capitalize on some free space as Reverse finds the opening pick onto Inrio, and he's just going to flee the scene and let Ashen hold this area down.
It's a nice body to get a pick onto Inrio, and as well Reverse to heat up and hopefully find some picks. AAA in that last round as well just had no drones or any information to work around. This time, though, they've got a lot more. They've got almost all of them, and so thus far have yet to lose most of that information. Instead, are droning out these defenders, but I'm not a fan of how they're doing it. Why are you driving a drone in a cocktail, and why is there no one following it in some sort of regards to get some control? It's just ineffective droning currently from AAA, that are plaguing them a little bit in this match overall.
And Giddy just going after it, and that is a frost mat as Ambi now hitting the deck, and BJL looking actually aggress off of that space that he might be getting off of that as he finds a kill onto stage and knows that these players were picked up. He finds one, not able to find the second as Reverse does get the trade, and now Wimpy has hit the deck as he was not in the best position there either, and now have evened us up into a 2v2 Amp and Reverse. The S2 guys gonna try and clutch this one out as Giddy so close to dying, but he has risen from the depths.
They lack the information needed, they being AAA. No drones in Amp or Reverse's pockets. There's two somewhere on the map, but again, they're stale, they're dry. You're not going to be able to do much with them. Giddy on the other end is playing Pulse. He has got the cardiac sensor and can utilize that to his benefit. Reverse, though, does have IQ, so at least you can kind of counter out and see where Giddy could be playing. 40 seconds remain, and Arial haven't done much. They have one flashbang to work off of. Eventually, finally spot out Giddy, and CZ, who's been a big gunner for Orbit, definitely has shown up in many rounds. He's won these clutches before, was going to have to win against two hot prime gunners coming from S2. Finds his way around Pillar, wrapping around, and information clearly lacking for AAA. Reverse will miss the shots, though. Diffuser going down, and Amp will stick it. CZ on just 1 HP. One bullet would take him down and allow AAA to even the score at 3-all in the half. Amp, though, repositioning, so is CZ, who's made his way upstairs now, trying to use that verticality that AAA made against themselves. CZ seems to be somewhat aware of his opponent's positioning, but does Amp know where CZ's coming from? If he's coming from top pillar, he does as the pre-fire comes through. Now Amp is aware, winning out the fight. A nice kill to come through, and AAA will even themselves out at 3 apiece.
And good for them, kind of stabilizing a little bit and preventing Orbit from really picking up steam and winning their 4th round in a row. But BJL so close. Look at that. Maybe if it's another gun, one that shoots faster, he finds that kill. But still a big 2-piece from him to bring it back. But the rest of his team not able to really clean it all up and end up falling down as Giddy not really able to escape for too long. It was temporary for him to get away from that first kill. Is Amp and Reverse coming up big for their team and getting that much needed round as they start off their defense on the cocktail bar over here.
I like the ability for Orbit to go for those aggressive pushes, right? You have BJL who made his way around and got that cleanup on the one down in the Frostmat. And although he was traded, you would have thought Orbit would have tried to play a little bit safer. Instead, Wimpy was trying to do so and ended up getting caught with his pants down as he ran across the cocktail bar. Clearly has not practiced his 15-meter dash. And, well, Orbit, unfortunately, lose bodies and lost the advantage that they were so graciously given to by AAA. However, being at a 3-3 split, you can't say it's the worst, as Orbit definitely tracked back rounds that they needed. Were able to do so. But this is where I get concerned for Orbit, because their attacks were rough on Skyscraper, so there's got to be some sort of change, some sort of difference overall. If not, then it's ugly. And we don't want ugly if you're Orbit, especially because you are on match and series point. Series point.
You know what I didn't even realize? Solus and Valk are both up. I did not even realize it in Arial Rise Academy looking to utilize that. And that, I guess, is the difference of style between these two teams. Orbit, one that plays a lot more together, and Arial Rise Academy, a team that really wants to get up in your grill and take some fights, and bringing that information that should be able to help you do that. You have the Solus, you have the Valkyrie, and you have the guns to be able to work around that. You have a MP5K with a 1.5 on it. You have an MP5, or not an MP5, I should say an MPX with a 1.5 on it with that Warden. So some good guns, some good information, and you could clearly see the vision of what they want to do on their PCs.
I'm not sure if I like BJL mindlessly chucking drones to burn out Aruni gates, but here we are in Rio with a nice opener to take out Ambi, who tried to get aggressive with the Solus. That's one of those massive information operators here on Cafe that when she's alive later in those rounds can be so impactful, especially with all the verticality. Amp is stuck inside of this humidor and is going to get rolled by the attackers who come on through, but no way is he allowed to win that gunfight and potentially continue to stay alive. Giddy's going to have to deal with this player now, but yet again, he goes prone, finally takes out Amp, and now Orbit can begin to aggress into the bomb site. They have the advantage, they have the positioning, but still have yet to deal with this player inside of Pixel, which is Kento.
And Ashen is still alive as well. It's a couple of very good guns, and still 50 seconds to work with. That is a lot of time as now Ashen hits the deck. Wimpy finding that kill, and Kento taken down to pretty low HP. Here's Orbit looking to flood the site, and they do. And who is that missing those shots? It's none other than, could be CZ. It wasn't ARX, and Kento really just in a tough spot as ZZ finds the last kill of the round. And Orbit starting off their attack side pretty strong.
They win their fights, they have some pretty decent information, and they prep themselves against the aggression coming through from AAA, which does not pay off. They put themselves in some rough positions, and especially those operators that you want to live later in the round died sooner. You lost your Valkyrie, there goes the C4. You lose your Solus, there goes your potential plant denial from below. You lose more and more as the round goes through, and you don't trade those bodies out. And if you're AAA, that's not okay. On the defense, you need to be able to trade those bodies out, especially against Orbit, who, yes, we're lackluster on the attack on Skyscraper, but look better already after that first round here on Cafe.
Yeah, and a good attack round. I mean, hey, they got one, right? And I think that's the back off of a lot of plays made by all 5 players. And you kind of said it, they were stalling out a little bit, but I'm okay with them taking their time, especially on this map. And on a take like that they don't need as much control on, because they're just making sure that they're not making any mistakes. And really, Amp getting away with a lot more than he should have been able to right there, and they still lost the round pretty decisively, and that was actually their only kill that they found. So it's like, you know, it's weird in that instance as they go for a second and Reverse ends up getting taken down. CZ finding that kill, and Arial Academy again have found themselves in a deficit.
All of a sudden, the aggression that AAA are so good at are getting punished. Orbit is reading into the fast and far spawn peaks that come through from AAA, which are just not landing their shots. Sometimes they're doing some of this nice chip damage, but overall, they're failing to confirm those picks. Finally, Ashen, who runs out, will take care of Giddy, dispatching the sledge, and needs to go along with it, but still, not too bad here for Orbit, as they've got some control. They've killed off Reverse, so those Midas will no longer regenerate. You're going to be able to get rid of that Pixel shield if it's placed, which there is none, actually. My apologies. There's no shield at all being played. Instead, Amp has elected the C4, so you're able to just kind of walk in as free as you want and only have to burn 1 or 2 things of Midas that have been placed down.
And they want to get real aggressive. They don't even care about that shield. And it looks like Execute might be getting ready to come in. You see Wimpy over there, and there they go. Amp finding the first one. Inrio does trade it back, however, and they end up getting in just a little too far as Kento finds that kill. It is now a 3v2 for Arial Academy as the dust has settled a little bit, but that Valkyrie info coming up big for them. You see how much space it covers, and it's just the entirety of the site at this point. Such a big thing as BJL looking to creep his way up, but still, that information is just going to make it so hard for them to get anything done.
I'm not a fan of Inrio, who sprinted through kind of mindlessly there in that moment. You have Inrio or Wimpy still using this rappel upside down to cut off or a AAA from being able to come back, and that's a nice pick to take out Ashen. Now Wimpy might decide to just hop down the skylight and join his teammate at BJL, who's finally gotten into a position to recover the diffuser. There's some decent information, but Kento with the swing is a little bit better in that engagement. BJL, who kind of sucked it on map 1 of Skyscraper, is in a position to maybe reclaim his faith and restore all the bad that he's done in Skyscraper here by clutching this 1 versus 2.
He's got to put this bomb down, and really just stick it out. Ambi and Kento are waiting. They're going to try and pinch at the same time as BJL's actually snuck his way into a pretty decent spot. That gunfight goes through. The information's now there as Ambi just wasting time for his teammate to push out as BJL finds the first one. Kento taking the long route. He has made this a 1v1 as BJL swings, but Kento finds the kill, and Arial Arise Academy take that defense so close to touching it out, but just not able to put the finishing touches on, as we see a little bit of a maybe just testing out his crouch key to make sure that it works.
Kento had to make sure all the weaponry was working according to
Of course,
as it needed,
of course. No
appropriately.
malfunctions.
Appropriately. Need to make sure the keyboard was still functioning, and he didn't need to have a equipment change. You'd hate to have to go to the AAA manager and be like, I need an equipment team, or I need an equipment change and get a new keyboard, all that fun stuff. You want to make sure that you're utilizing your equipment properly and not damaging it, which Kento damaged the faces of Orbit after that round. A nice job overall to close things out, especially after it got a little sketchy, but I really feel like it came off the back that Inrio didn't take the best path to getting the diffuser down, tried to get out of bar because he knew he was being hunted from below from the Valkyrie camera information, but sprinted a little mindlessly across top white, and without that player being flashed, lost his life, lost the diffuser insight, and it made it a much more difficult round for Orbit to have a chance of winning.
Yeah, and still almost pulling it away, and it seemed like it was a pretty good play call right there, just not able to execute it clean enough, and at the end of the day, Arial Arise get that round win, and needed one at that, and Orbit, they still are looking a lot better. That's kind of what I alluded to earlier. There was a big difference between losing rounds like they were on Sky and losing rounds like that. There's still so many positives in that round, and just the small things are going wrong, and still gives me a lot more confidence than I'd say I had on Sky with their attacks, and a much better start, and we'll see if they can continue to do that as they've opted to bring the IQ. And I mean, you look at the operators that Arial Arise Academy has brought, and that IQ, as long as he stays alive, is going to provide a lot of...
BJL is going to be pivotal in this round, because he could cause hell.
Sure. Oh,
for the AAA. I mean, he is countering the Solus, the Valkyrie, Ashen on the Pulse. You're going to be able to spot two bodies through the walls. And then as well, anyone that's sitting on those black eye cameras trying to give information, you can also spot them. So BJL should have a field day this round with destroying the utility, as long as he uses it and plays it properly and does not overextend himself. Does a nice job of identifying where the pulse play is coming from. Might even be able to find a free kill off of it. That could be huge. But BJL takes some damage from Ashen, ends up winning that fight. A very nice job. CZ also collects one on a Kento.
And that's the pulse going down, but there are still two very powerful operators up, Solus and the Valkyrie. And Valkyrie may not need to be alive for her utility to really provide all that value as Amp gets taken down. That's the Solus, but still, those Val cameras can provide a lot, enough for them even to get back into this round, as they have some information. They're going to need to isolate some of these players, but Orbit, you see where some of their players are positioned. They're watching that red flank. They are watching everything, but Arial actually gets taken down on that red flank as Reverse finding a big kill and looking to find another one. He finds it. Reverse a big couple of kills as BJL ends up getting taken down, getting taken some damage as well. Ambi and Reverse looking to come up huge as Ambi finds the kill, evens us up at a 2v2. So quick, in a blink of an eye. Orbit have just given up everything that they have worked hard to achieve in this round.
How are AAA finding themselves back in this from a 5v2 to a 2v2? Reverse, though, is on 1 HP. They're working together nicely, though. Loses his 1 to Wimpy, but Ambi has the swing, should be able to win this engagement, does so beautifully. And now the star gunner from AAA has to defeat Giddy, who has proven himself more than ever throughout Challenger League, especially with his stint with RTV. Does a little bit of damage, but has taken some worse for wear, and that defensive information is going to be great for AAA, and especially for someone with the hot-handed gun of Ambi, who only has to land 1 bullet to complete this comeback win here for AAA. Diffuser begins to go down in favor of Giddy, but that's going to stall at the timer real late. You have to stick it, otherwise you're not going to win the round. Eventually gets the plant down, so can work off this post plant, does some nice chip damage to Ambi, but Ambi not able to land the pre-fire. A very nice clutch by Giddy, who on 1 HP plays the tightest angle possible, winning it out and keeping Orbit alive.
They almost blew that, but Ambi not able to find it at the end, and Giddy coming up big for his team. How many times are we going to say that today? It's Giddy. It's something as well with this Orbit roster, and maybe something that has worked out for them with that roster change is when BJL's going crazy, you have BJL. When CZ's going crazy, you have CZ, and now you have Giddy. So many players are capable of coming up big for this roster, and they're showing that, and that's kind of what you need to be able to have against Arial Arise Academy. Players coming up big in those big time moments in Orbit now have a lead on their map pick of Cafe Dostoyevsky, and some definitely to look at as well, as Arial Rise Academy have completely shifted what they want to do. No more Valk, no more Solaces. They're going to take a dock, a castle, and a warden. Warden's something that they've been bringing, but a dock and castle is definitely something that I'd like to have you shed some light on for me.
5 seconds left.
Yeah, I think that Orbit are doing a good job of playing some cutoffs, playing some of those windows to stop AAA from being able to run around. So you bring the castle, cut off some of those sight lines that can be played from Orbit, and as well, it also goes pretty well with this train defense. It's nice to have the castle be able to block off a lot of those sight lines, and you'll see Ambi doing just that, getting the freezer walls patched up, some of the windows, and other positions that are crucial as a defense. Kento on the dock as well. I mean, hey, that's free HP. You can peek as much as you want, and you have the bailiff to help set up site as well, so that's also a nice touch here for AAA on the defense.
This, and we'll see what it goes for them and how everything goes, because this is a very different style of team from what we're seeing from Orbit. You have the Finka, you have Yamaru, everything to set up for a very quick play, and that's not something Orbit has really shown on this map up to this point. So that may be something that catches Arial Arise Academy off guard, and that would be a great time to do it, as the Amaru now goes through the play in motion. As CZ has so much control over here, but Kento finding the kill, and nobody really on Orbit to be there to continue. The rest of it is Inria and Wimpy now following up with a couple of kills as Ashen gets a C4. Giddy trades one out as well. That's the last player remaining upstairs, as now Ashen and Ambi left in a 2v3, and a big one determining the course of this game.
Now there's no more C4 in play here for AAA, so you're able to leverage as much of that vertical play as you want. You have Giddy with the flat place charges, who's going to fight a nice kill through the wall, or through the holes rather, onto Ashen. Now Ambi has to clutch a 1 versus 3. You also have BJL to play the sledgehammer. You can just slap away at the floor, but if you want, you could also just straight up go for the site. You have the information now on where Ambi is positioned behind this bomb chassis inside of the mining room, but Ambi still has that luxury to rotate around. You just cannot give him ones, because Ambi is so well known for winning those 1v1 engagements. Orbit, as long as they play together, play that refrag, play that trade, they will find themselves successful. Some shots ring through the wall as Ambi is looking to challenge any gunfight he can get, but Orbit won't give it to him. He finds a nice headshot though on Giddy. Now is aware of where the Finka is. Will take the 1v1, but Wimpy is better. Ambi falls in that round, and Orbit put themselves on a match point.
A big win from Wimpy, and Orbit now setting us up for maybe a quite close series. I mean, we've said it so many times, something we expected to see, and I'm sure we wouldn't have had it any other way between these two teams, but Orbit now have that teamwork really working for them, and now Arial Arise Academy are going to be the ones to take the time out here.
This is where they got to talk things out, right? If you're AAA, your back is against the wall. You're losing some of these rounds. You're losing some of those opening picks. You're just not quite fighting the way you were on the attack. You got to be more aggressive, Ariel. Like, you guys are known for being aggressive, but I think the passiveness has really come through and shown. I'd like to see them just take more fights to Orbit and run out more, spawn peek more, be aggressive. You know, take some of those risky plays that might put yourself back into this match.
Yeah, and I don't think the spawn peaks are necessarily the right move. They tried that early on in their defenses. It didn't necessarily work out, but I think early round pressure is something that they need. Like peak right when they get into the map, really take advantage of that ability to win gunfights. And I mean, you're definitely right. It is going to be off the back of the aggression. They need to make it happen in any way because they haven't done that in a little while, and you see in these clutch attempts is when they're the ones being the aggressors. I say that word so many times, but it's pretty true for the most part. When they are the ones swinging, they find the kills. It's like 1+1 = 2 at this point.
And I also want to see like more counterplay to the orbit information, which has been pretty strong on the attack. Like they have really nice information, nice teamwork overall. They work together. The flow is much better than what we saw in Skyscraper. And AAA aren't bringing the operators to stop that. There's no Mute, there's no Mozzie, there's no Vigil shutting down that information game that Orbit have been primed and so good off of. Arial Arise, they took advantage of the misinformation that Orbit provided in the last map that they played on Sky, but here on Cafe, it is a completely different story.
It is a completely different story, and I'm happy it is a completely different story because it means we get a banger series. But
Fair enough.
I'm intrigued to see a Maestro. I feel like we don't really see Maestro anymore.
Especially on bar holds. But hey,
Yeah.
Amp, feeling the LMG, let it rip, man. Let it sing.
A blast from the past, if you will, and Orbit looking to shut this one down sooner rather than later, and have all the players now on the roof going for a take that is very, very similar to the one that they had done last time. You have Wimpy on that Nomad, making sure that those air jabs are placed on all the runouts to make sure that all these players playing on the windows don't have too much to worry about. And I mean, Wimpy did go big on this last round. His position is so important. Watching these runouts at the start, watching the flanks, and then ending up playing that Skylight late round. It cuts off a lot of angles that Arial Arise Academy could be playing that, late round could be very important, but it gets shut down from that position, and it's going to be very big for him to stay alive and make sure that he capitalizes on those opportunities that he finds late round.
Whip has been doing a very nice job so far this map. I mean, truthfully, there's nothing to really complain about. He's getting those cutoff picks and stopping Arial Arise ACAD from being able to run around freely, do as they want, and forcing them to be passive, just as they are in this round. And Orbit has been so successful in those 5v5 executes, and guess what? It's 5v5, there's a minute left, and eventually, once they get that opening pick, they are going to walk into the bomb site with all of the fury in the world.
And now a minute remaining, still at 5v5. It's quite quiet from what we've seen. Not even a tick of damage from either of these teams going through. And I say that, look at that. Ashen getting taken down, and it's going to look for Orbit to take the space now off of that pick. But still, the time is low. They need to find their way to get into sight as they're using that utility, but it feels like at this point it's a little late at the moment. And the way that Arial Arise Academy has held this, they're okay with forfeiting all of this space. They're going to try and play their crossfires here as everything's able to happen, as Amp now has an angle to worry about that you might not want to have to worry about as Orbit have that pressure everywhere around the map. But Amp does find the kill. Kento, another one, is BJL desperate to help his team as Giddy finds another one. How many times are we going to say that? Reverse finding one, Kento finding one. It's Wimpy all down to him with only 5 seconds. Not too much to be able to do as Arial Arise Academy extending to the map at least by one more round.
Incredible job. Truthfully, by AAA, they forfeited so much control, but they didn't overpeak. Yes, they lost a body early on before the execute truthfully came through, but they did such a nice job of simply making Orbit walk into their angles. The lack of team play from Orbit, the lack of flashbangs to come through early enough to stop AAA from peaking, ended up punishing them. And Amp kicked things off by letting the LMG sing, and eventually the trades just worked out in favor for Arial Arise ACAD, who swarmed Orbit and found success. And now they're one round away from tying it and potentially bringing us into overtime here on Orbit's map pick.
You don't even want to do all that, it'd be agonizing to lose your map. It's a time of blown leads, a story of blown leads it would be if Orbit isn't able to close it out here. But kudos to what Arial Rise Academy is doing. They did something different right there, and they had the early aggression, but it wasn't what we wanted to see from them. But the way that they had set up site was allowing for them to fall back and play their cross angles there, because the way that they had been setting up beforehand, it didn't really allow for them to give up that kind of space. And by setting up the site in that way, in that regard, I should say, it's a lot better for them and fitting of their playstyle and what they want to do on this map.
I spy what I asked for, Joe. What I said Arial Arise should do to stop Orbit. Mute, Mozzie, Solus. They are bringing all of that information denial that Orbit works so well with, and that is exactly how you want to counter this team. You want to beat Orbit, you bring Mute, you bring Mozzie, you bring Solus, you bring Mitchell, you bring it all. You do your best to stop them from making sure that they cut you off. They have the information to be able to do so. If you're able to do that, disrupt their attack, get in their faces early, you will find success. And AAA, they have put themselves in a nice position to be able to win this round with this adaptation and adjustment.
Yeah, and it looks like that made that's the information we're talking about. Oh no!
That's in the train, isn't it?
He is. Yeah. He is, and they are aware of that. It's a nice little play from Ambi to be aware right there, but it shows, it's like instantly, it just showed how good they are with their information, and now there it is, the kill going through, Ambi taking down, and CZ finding that opening pick. And step one to send us to map 3 has now been set up, but Ashen finding one right on back as Orbit losing that man seconds after they had just gained that man advantage.
Oh, but a nice headshot there from CZ through the wall to find Ashen, who just steps out at the wrong time. Still, though, Orbit lacking in some of that time, have a lot of drones around the map, and are trying to utilize their information game to their benefit. Kento could be the one to thwart that and stop some of that play, as well as Amp, who still remains inside of Train, trying to stop AAA from pushing on through and getting this diffuser down, getting the control that they desire. Hopping on drones and still just working their way through this round is Orbit, as they continue to waste out the clock on AAA, who, well, we'll see if they get any antsy.
And that C4 is going to be in a good spot, not able to find the kill almost, but to no avail. And Kento looking for a kill, not able to find it. That Finka showing her power as now 2 players go down. It's all up to Reverse if he wants to hold off on a 3rd map, as he's able to find 1 kill, spots out a 2nd player, knows that one's upstairs, and I'm sure he got the audio cue right there for where the plant is going off. Not able to find the kill. That bomb should go down, and Reverse having to isolate some picks and not able to do it. I'm sure he will be heard out as Orbit just so close to sending us to that map 3, and there it is. No one else but Giddy. Who else could it be? It's him closing out the map and sending us to Villa.
Who would have thought we would have seen all 6 maps today? I would have thought that. I did think we were going to see both teams, both series go long. Each team winning the other's map picks so far. HK Rebels took West Garfield Park, West Garfield took HK Rebels, and now here we are, where AAA win their own map pick of Skyscraper. This time, Orbit win their own map pick of Cafe, so we actually swap between the series, and each team do their respective job to get the job done on their end. Nonetheless, though, I will say I loved the way that Orbit began to get that information fostering, and although AAA brought all the key operators and key tools they needed to stop that information, they did a nice job.
And I think we did know that Cafe was going to go Orbit's way. The main story was really, would they be able to take either Sky or Villa? It's maps that they've struggled on before. So, we'll see if they're able to take that map. Please. We are going to go to a little bit of a break to end off our night on a big-time map 3 in this quarterfinal matchup.
there you have it. Orbit taking their own map pick of Cafe, coming back here at SFCL. Joe alongside me. I am Klimps, and we are here in quarterfinals of SFCL. It's our playoff week, and this is where all the marbles are. All the month you've been playing for the last 30 days come to fruition as Orbit found some nice traction against AAA late, finally getting their information game underway, which they struggled against a lot early on, but eventually got things turning around on their attacks and looked very nice. But here we are, we head into Villa, Joe, and these two teams have a history on Villa. A 15-round history just a week ago.
Yeah, and I mean, we could definitely see that happen again, can't we? And it's two teams that I guess have woken up. Arial Arise, they looked great on that first map, maybe not as great on that second map, but it was really more so Orbit looking really good on that second map. They started off map 1 in the way that they ended map 2, playing together, playing their game, and I'm not sure where that version of Orbit had gone for the entire middle part of that series, but they were able to bring it back, and off the back of, once again, Diddy finding those kills, being the guy for them, the experience, the rock, heading into this map 3.
Yiddy is that guy that you need to step up. CZ as well, also finally kind of coming back to his own natural talented self that we've seen him really explode here in SFCL. Wimpy also with a nice map. You don't typically see that, and he's kind of struggled as of late, but hey, anytime is better than now to get back into the swing of things, especially with the playoffs underway. BJL still struggling a little bit in Arial. He's playing the support role. You don't expect too much to there. The AAA side of things, rather even across the scoreboard, but no one really sticking out. And I think that's kind of the difference here is, truthfully, I think that Orbit just showed themselves a little bit better in some of the engagements and ended up winning enough to be able to get by and win this map.
Yeah, and I mean, the evenness might be good for Arial Arise. It means that nobody's really slacking in a major way, but the one problem with that is you need kind of a superstar. It's it kind of is what that roster was made to be, is 5 players who could pop off at any given time, and kind of the same thing with Orbit, but you need one of them to pop off to combat what's going on the other side. When you have multiple players on the other team popping off, you need someone to be the person to counteract that, be on the other side of the scale, tip it back to at least even, let alone your side of it. So on Villa, I'm going to expect maybe Ambi to go big, Ashen in a map 3. I'm sure he's not going to want to go down this early. Those two players have seen so much success under the Arial Arise banner that I am almost positive they're not going to go down without a fight.
Well, in this last map here on Villa, last time these two teams played, Ambi dropped the kill record, getting 25 kills on Villa, having a lot of 4Ks, aces even, really big impact rounds that kept AAA in this map. He's going to need help because Orbit are not going to let that happen again. They are not going to let Ambi dismantle them the way they did before in the last match. So it really comes down to who on AAA are going to step up, who on AAA are going to step up and help Ambi and the rest of the team to be able to engage and take down Orbit. Or will Orbit be able to stop AAA yet again on Villa and not let Ambi run a train on them this time?
Yeah, no, that's something that would be nice to avoid. But we'll see what that damage goes into. We'll see if Arial Rise Academy can really pull that out, because I think they need to recognize that. They need to try and set up at least someone. I don't want to say stars specifically, because they kind of have about 4 or 5 of them. So, but they need to set up one person, even each other, a little bit better than they have done previously on the last couple of maps, because that's kind of really what's going to be the difference maker. It's not going to be able to be a one-man job. You can't just run around and fry. I mean, it's possible for sure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Ambi has shown that in the past, but they need to set each other up, play off of each other better, use that information, whether that's on the attack side, defense side, whatever it is. They need to play that information.
And I expect Villa to go deep just because AAA this season always go deep on Villa for whatever reason. They love to just go as far as possible against Arial Arise main and against Orbit. They went to max OT, 15 rounds of gameplay. And I kind of expect that again, just because they do have moments where they throw some bodies. They have some moments where they look so good, get the advantage, win their fights. Orbit on the other end, they also like playing this site close and this map close rather. So it really comes down to, I think in the end, when we saw these two teams match up last time on Villa, is the gunfights and the engagements. That's kind of the difference between Cafe, and that was also the difference a bit on Skyscraper as well. So going into Villa here, whichever team comes out firing, comes out hot, is going to find themselves success.
And I think that early momentum is big, but didn't really do all too much for Arial Rise Academy last map. They took those first 2 rounds, and after that, Orbit kind of took control of that, winning 7 of the next 9. So, or 7 of the next 10, I should say. So, that early momentum is something that will be big, but I think for the most part, that hasn't really proven to be too effective in this series so far. It almost feels like whoever wins the first few rounds is actually going to lose the map. So we'll see what adjustments get made early on. I think that's more so the bigger thing that needs to be noted, is whoever can make those adjustments, because in those 2 maps, it's been more so the development as the map goes on, whoever can really figure each other out and come out on top.
Well, comes down to how you play around your opponent. Orbit were really great at the information game on the attack. Arial Rise ACAD also made some nice plays to just find some entries needed against Orbit, but have struggled somewhat on the attack in this series. I feel like AAA have not been their attacking selves, where they typically tend to dominate some teams and truly get away with a lot of big playmaking moments. Instead, they've been rather quiet and trying to play more cohesively and more together, which is good to see, but also not so good to see considering it's not what they usually do. So I don't like to see differences. And nice use of the EE1D and the nade to come through. Down speech AL. Great team play and information there for Ash, and who's able to get the down. Reverse also takes down Arial, so it's a great start to this first attacking round for AAA.
And there's pressure all over the map for them, and you have Amp out here on that study balcony. Look at where all of these players are positioned, and Ambi's just going to walk right on up the red stairs, and Reverse finds another kill, and Orbit, their defense crumbling around them right now. They need to try and find a pick back, but Amp not going to allow himself to get isolated. He's going to fall back as Kento finding a pick as well. Giddy and CZ, the 2 that have gone so big for them previously, but Giddy getting taken down, and this is going to look near impossible for CZ to win.
Defender exposed.
Really came down to the information that AAA brought. CZ is going to bail out and just go run all the way to Ruins. I'm sure Arial or Rise ACAD are going to have a field day running after MMA. They're all ready. Let's go for this fight. Ashton will close it out. A flawless round for AAA. A very nice attack with such good information, and overall very well played from them.
Yeah, and that's a great start for them on this attack. And almost exactly the same start we had on Cafe. They came out really, really strong on their attack, and we'll see if they can continue to build off that, or if Orbit can make those necessary adjustments that they've done before on Cafe. But this has also been a map that they've shown that they're not as comfortable on, so it'll be a little bit different for them, as, you know, Cafe was their map pick. This was not. This is a map that I don't believe that they've even won so far in this SFCL season, so we'll kind of see how that goes. And yes, they are 0-2 on this map, so you'd want to see a better start from them, but I think we'll see as this game progresses if we'll have that version of Orbit that we saw last map that is capable of making those adjustments, or one that's just going to falter at these tough times going into this map 3 and maybe seeing them get eliminated.
Those are the better attacks that I like to see from AAA, where they work together, they have the information, they work quickly. that is something they haven't done in this series, is work efficiently and quickly on the attacks with super, super good information like they had in that previous round. They continue to do that, they might close this map out rather quickly against Orbit.
Yeah, and rather quickly is definitely something that I'm afraid of. But I think we'll know whether or not that's going to happen kind of early. We'll see if Orbit can really assert themselves into this game, as that is not a good first round. You know, not even finding a single kill. And you want to get it going kind of early so that you can really have that confidence and be able to play to the top of your game. But, I mean, Arial Academy have shown in these kinds of moments in the past that they have what it takes to fight adversity, fight these battles. No matter how close the game is, no matter the circumstance, they've always been able to come away with a win. And we'll see if that's something that they can continue to do, as we have this map 3, a much different roster, but core values got to still be there.
A lack of a lot of information for AAA. They only have 4 drones and a couple of those Yana Gemini clones left, with 2 drones now. As I say that, a couple of them disappear. They really don't have any ground to show for it. They've got some of that lower control, getting Ambi down below and popping that black mirror inside of Master, so that will help to speed up and aid their push on through. But still, you don't really know where these defenders are sitting, and you've got to be careful on some of these engagements, especially Reverse, who's going to hop in, potentially even into a Frostmat. Ashen with the nades from below, trying to find picks, but still nothing much to come of this round, as Orbit are simply waiting out the clock.
And this is much better for them. 1:15. Nothing really doing right now, but Arial Academy, they have players all over the place, and it's going to be like a boa constrictor, tightening their squeeze around the necks of Orbit as they are able to find that opening kill. It's Ashen below, finding Giddy. Don't know where exactly Giddy was, but now you have Arial Academy. Look at all of the places they are on the map, and Inrio has actually found himself in a really good spot inside of that aviator room in Orbit. I don't think they're necessarily sure what Arial Academy are doing here, and I'm not even sure Arial Academy know what they're doing right here, as Amp ends up getting taken down. That is the case on the floors. BJL finds one. Reverse hits the deck as well inside of a Frostmat, as now it's all down to Ambi and Ashen.
At AAA have no drones, so the rat plays that go through from Inrio hiding inside of Aviator is brilliant. He's got the diffuser under his control. The rest of Orbit clean house on AAA. This is going to be a long map show, because these teams are going back and back against each other.
Yeah, and Arial Academy, they started off pretty strong. They had that position, but I think it was more so that they weren't able to get into the spots that they wanted to, and Orbit recognized that and played around it brilliantly. And Inrio found himself in a really, really good spot inside of Aviator. No one was really aware of that, and unfortunately, lost round for Arial Academy. Not able to really build off of what they did on map 1, but Orbit making the good adjustments, something that we were worried about them doing, but able to show that they have the ability to do it.
Very nice job by Orbit there in that round. Now as they go back to Aviator Games, try their luck yet again. Just have to be wary of AAA, who like to lurk below, who are going to use that information to try to get some freebie picks. You've got to make sure that you're not standing in some of those default positions that AAA are going to try to catch you off guard in.
And the Mira plays coming out from Orbit. I really like what Orbit does. It shows that this kind of older style of Siege can still work, and playing around their utility and their teammates and positions maybe more than guns. And it's nice to see, because they're one of the only teams, I feel like, that still play this kind of style. And they obviously are able to get aggressive. It's still something you have to do in this era of Siege, but it's still nice to see that that old style works and they're able to really use it and win with it.
Well, so far, so slow. Take from AAA, but Amp is getting that drone inside to get some of that important information here for AAA. Ambi will use the grenades, get rid of some of that utility to shut them down. Ashen takes out BJL, but quickly traded out by Giddy, who's got the floor holds to help his teammate out. Very nice play there from the Kaid to recognize that his teammate was being pushed, and BJL, though losing his life, takes away an important one in the name of Ashen, who's got those frag grenades, which are so important for AAA.
Yeah, they are. They've shown what they can do in that earlier round, first round, I believe it was, with those nades from below. And I think that's a big thing, but Arial Rise Academy, I think they're still in the advantage for the most part in this round, mostly because they have good positioning. They've taken the control that they need, as Inrio now taking a lot of damage, those nades from below, but that's the only one that Ambi has left. But a mirror window able to be popped from below because of it, and it's a good spot for them to be. The only issue that I'm concerned about for Arial Rise Academy is look at the utility still remaining. 2 C4s and 3 smokes at the disposal of Orbit. That's going to prevent Arial Rise Academy from really getting that bomb down, and Wimpy just throwing them things around, not afraid to use those smoke grenades.
Really getting the arm warmed up is Wimpy, but also check out Arial Arise. 3 drones remain somewhere around the map, but not super useful if you're just gonna die. Ambi walks in, gets picked off by CZ. Reverse is gonna try to make something happen through the top of main stairs. Kento as well finds a pick, so kills even back out. But Arial Arise are fighting for their lives. They don't have the information of where the last 2 defenders are, and Inrio just cleans both of the last 2 attackers up. Very nicely done, as he's just playing aim labs on the last couple bodies of AAA, and another nice defensive round overall by Orbit.
And playing well once again around their utility, something that's a lost art sometimes in this siege, and they find themselves 2-1 up and looking like a different team on Villa. I mean, obviously that last time that they played it was very, very close, but looking like that they're pretty comfortable at the moment, I'd say. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but they seem to be very comfortable with their setups, and that's not something, to me, that I've seen too much in this series. I mean, Cafe, they did. It was only a 3-3 split, but, well, I guess more so their attacks, but I think they're just in their flow right now. They're in that state of play that it's just they're getting their way on the map, and that's a dangerous Orbit team to be playing against.
It is, and also AAA are just super slow on their attacks, and when they lack info, when they lack the team play and cohesion to work together on an execute, which they've had lately, they really have not worked together. They're not flashing themselves in. They're not working together to get those engagements, to trade bodies out, to get the control they need. Instead, they wait out the timer, and it just takes too long for them to really get any forward momentum to propel themselves to a round win. We're not quite seeing that same feistiness that we saw in some of their Cafe attacks.
No, not at all. And still some time to change that, but look at the amount of information that Orbit has now. They have that Valk, they have that Pulse, not something they've brought out quite yet, and this could lead to some aggressiveness that Arial Rise Academy isn't really prepared for quite yet, because that's not a look that they've been shown on this map, and we'll see if Orbit decide to play that kind of siege, and not looking like they'll be able to really do anything with that, as they're not taking all too much control. But look at Ashen has actually found himself on the upstairs area, and Orbit have given up a lot now.
You lose that top floor control, but you still have the pulse below. You have a couple C4s that you might be able to catch AAA off guard with, and that's the plan here for Orbit. At least appears so, as they get out of dodge from that vertical control, and Inrio actually gets the opener. It's the first one of the map for Orbit as he takes down Ashen.
Yeah, and a big opening kill. He was the one upstairs, kind of isolated, but reverse. Finding a kill on those Atro stairs. Inrio getting taken down, and good part about it is you just see the amount of information. It's a topic that we have touched upon multiple times, and Reverse does get taken down, but not before Ambi walks through sight, but they're just getting cut down as Kento left on his own to fight 4 members of Orbit. Still a minute to work with, but Mason, Orbit are looking like they are cooking at the moment.
They play the long angles and they win the rounds, and they are looking real good on these defenses. AAA just not quite where they were. I feel like that some sort of change has happened in their attacks, or maybe it's a change in the Orbit defenses and the way that they're playing, and where they're much more passive. They play back. They're forcing AAA to walk into them, and they are struggling. And this is not something that we typically see from Arial Arise Academy. We don't see them struggle to get those executes going, but there is something that's off in this team's demeanor and momentum overall, that they just lack that team cohesion to force and execute together. Why not bring a Ying? Bring someone that if Orbit's going to let you walk in, you walk in, and you make sure that you make their life hell while doing so by blocking off those sightlines, flashing them alive. Do those things that you need as Orbit, or as you need as an attack.
Yeah, and I think Orbit is actually doing a really good job at preventing Arial Rise Academy from getting those 50-50 gunfights. Orbit are finding a way to make almost every gunfight an advantageous one. And in that first round, a lot of 1v1s were given, and that's where Arial Rise capitalized on, and that's what they're always going to do. If you give them 50-50 gunfights, they're not really 50-50 with the ability and talent that they have on their roster, but this is going to be the time where they need to make that adjustment of, okay, guys, we can't just walk in and take fights. They're playing these crossfires really well, playing their utility very well. We're not doing a good job at clearing it or following each other up, and that's the difference maker right now. And until they're able to make that adjustment, Orbit are going to keep tallying up these rounds. And I mean, this is map 3. This is Arial Arise Academy, our 2-time defending champions of SFCL, and they're looking like they might be bowing out pretty early if all is still, I guess, consistent of what we've seen so far in Villa.
Don't say that yet, just yet, Joe. AAA,
Not just
there's
yet.
always something about this team in playoffs, but Amp gets his head, smoked by Wimpy, who one-pumps the life out of the Dokkaebi, who goes away, and now you're not going to have the luxury of those phone calls, nor the DMR, nor the EMP grenades, and that's going to be rough to try to open up some of these walls. You're going to have to rotate a body down below. You do have nades, though, in Ashen and Reverse to be able to do so, but Ambi has lost both drones and playing that supportive role with the Ace. How are you going to be able to drone in some of those entry players? They're going to have to do it themselves or with the help of Kento, who's really going to have to be piggybacking some of that information this round.
Look at them. They're getting aggressive. I love that. Love that confidence coming through. It's a little off-key of what they've shown us and why they are winning in this game, but it's showing how comfortable Orbit is right now. But the play is now starting to come through as Reverse working his way up the staircase. Astro is the focus of this attack as Wimpy going up big on that Astro desk. CZ finding a couple of kills, and now Kento on his own as CZ finds another one, and Orbit just have all the answers right now for Arial Arise Academy.
I'm almost starting to doubt my prediction a little bit, at least with the way that this first half of Villa has really trailed out. This could be a massive bracket buster for a lot of teams, and AAA decide to take a timeout. They realize that this attacking round is important to win, but now you lose this timeout for the rest of the map, and you might need that for defense. Without a timeout, now you lack it. If you need to make it a quick adjustment on the defensive side, that could be rough, but it is important to win this round, keep Orbit out of the favorable round wins, and also making sure that Orbit doesn't get to that 5-1 scoreline that we saw them get to in Skyscraper, which really makes the map a lot more difficult. Overall, though, AAA are just not shooting, and that's not typical of this gun-out lineup. I mean, they have shooters, but they are not doing the job they need. They need to wake up.
They need to wake up, and that's probably all this timeout is for, to kind of reset themselves. I think they're probably going to be comfortable on that defense, and I think they probably feel like it's more important that they use the timeout now before they find themselves in such a big hole than having to use it when they're down 6-1 maybe, because you lose that opening defense, and then there you are 6-1 down on map 3. So it's better to use it now kind of early, try and scrape something away in this attack, make it a 4-2. That's not the worst situation to be in, and end up going over to your defense a little more confident, and those errors that you're making on this map may not be continuing if they can get that little bit of momentum. We'll see if they're able to do that. And like you said, the guns are not really going all too strong for them right now. If my math is correct, 10 kills in 5 rounds. That, I don't think we've ever seen this before from Arial Arise Academy. We've seen them lose before, but not like this.
They're not a team that lack in that gun department at all. It's just they're not putting themselves and enabling themselves in those positions to be successful. And honestly, Orbit are just outplaying them, whether it's toning up the aggression when needed or toning themselves back and forcing AAA into them. There's a lack of teamwork, a lack of cohesion across the AAA board, which hopefully they are able to figure out in that tactical timeout.
And a tactical timeout is big. We'll see if it's going to be good for them, because it didn't work out for Orbit when they took theirs and Arial Rise Academy. I mean, it's kind of on them to make the change here, and looking to get that 90 wall open, but not able to do anything about that player that's just creeping up 90, as they're not going to be able to get this wall open. Able to reestablish a gate on that wall. And I mean, Ariel, they did bring the Ying. You did talk about that earlier in bringing those flashes to really make that happen. So we'll see if the Ying ends up proving to be the difference maker that you have alluded to this point. And Orbit have now been back down to site kind of early this time, as Arial Arise Academy found themselves in a pretty commanding area of the map, but still have those mirrors to deal with.
They've got all the way up to that 90 control with still 2 minutes left in the round. That's very nice to see, but that vault wall gets cade tricked, and that's going to make it difficult to walk your way into the site. You got one more EMP and also one more of those Selma charges to work with, but you might want to use that to open some more sight lines into the bomb site. It's exactly what is used. It's now you have a deeper angle inside a bar, but you've got to worry about these players at top main, and maybe if Orbit overswing, you can take advantage. They've also brought out the Ying, and that could be huge for Reverse to simply flash out the opponents and walk their way in. But CZ has something to say about Ashen, who tries to make a play. He gets shut down, and all of a sudden, Reverse and the rest of AAA are going to try to walk in against these mirrors.
And a big kill for Kenta right there to get rid of Arial. That's a C4 off the board. Another C4 off the board. No study presence right now, as a couple of players end up going down. CZ and BJL giving them a commanding 4v2 in this round, as Giddy finding another one. Kento hitting the deck as Ambi left on his own in a 1v4. And Orbit poised to take a 5-1 lead on this map 3, and Arial Arise Academy, their backs are against the wall. This is it for them.
AAA struggled so much in their last match against Orbit in the regular season, round 4, to frag out here on Villa. Ambi was the only one showing up in the frag department, truthfully. Everyone else was pretty much even. Nothing special coming out of AAA. This time around, Ambi's not fragging out. The rest of AAA aren't fragging out. And you can show and tell that these rounds are just dominant by Orbit. Arial Arise ACAD are just not working together. They're not playing their game. They're not working as a team to use utility, flood their way into the site. Instead, they're timid, they're passive, they're not aggressive. They're not doing the things that we know Arial Arise to be, and that's why they're out of this match. But we've been here before. Orbit has had a 5-round lead on the defensive end, and then AAA get on the defense and won 6 straight. That happened back in map number 1 of Skyscraper. It very well could happen here, as long as those guns begin to heat up.
10 seconds.
Yeah, and it's going to have to happen now, right? Sooner rather than later. And it started off good for them, but once that mid-round hit, they looked so confused as they weren't able to get that vault wall open. Maybe that's where a majority of their push was centered around, and Giddy was the one to make sure that that wall didn't get open on that cade. He was cade tricking that wall. Great use of utility right there, and they just seemed confused in that late round, which shouldn't be too much of an issue anymore. They are over on their defenses, and we'll see if they can change things up a little bit as Ambi looking to get aggressive early on in the round, as is Reverse. And that's something that they need. The entries are going to be big on these defenses, making sure that they have that man advantage to play around. It gives them so much more freedom than when they're kind of forced to make. It's better when they catch you off guard.
Orbit, really good with using and exploiting their information game against AAA on Cafe. It helped them so much on their attacks, their cohesion, their team pushes and all were very, very good. That transfers to Villa. I expect a lot of good things to come here for Orbit. A lot of damage done to Ashen early on as his arm sticking out, caught out by Wimpy, and a little bit of tag damage done, but no kill to come of just yet. So Ashen still alive, still has that C4 in pocket, and can still be a nuisance to the Orbit attack.
Yeah, he can, and that's that DMR. It does so much dang damage, and still, though, it's kind of a similar situation as Arial Rise Academy found themselves on this attack, and BJL going to see what he can do downstairs with those nades and looking to maybe catch out Ambi, but not really to do any significant damage right there, as Arial Rise Academy players are taking some heat, but nothing too concerning at the moment as they're finally able to get rid of that map shield. But this point, not going to matter too much as Ambi has fled the location.
I like the team play and teamwork here from Orbit to remove that utility, work together, burn as a unit. That is something that I feel like I've lacked seeing lately in SFCL, is just teams working together to burn through utility, and certainly Arial Arise ACAD struggled in that moment. But Orbit, they have to use the rest of their utility, the smoke and the rest of the Candelas to come from Giddy to flash their way into the site. A C4 comes through, but Inrio gets into the site. Getting behind the map table, begins to get that plant down. Coverage is there, the noise is being made. The C4 misses, the plant's going to go down. 40 seconds for Arial Rise ACAD to respond appropriately. Finally, the first kill of the round comes through as Ashen takes out CZ, but Wimpy on this cutoff from Study is doing an amazing job. Picks off Reverse and Amp, and it seems like a clean of house here for Orbit, who just have the better post-plant positions. Kento's going to have to clutch a 1 versus 3. Only has about 15 seconds to hop on the diffuser. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen in time. It would have hit the headshot on Nagiti, but swings around inside of Study. BJL disconnects. It could be winnable. Wimpy has to stay alive, but he's prone long enough. Kento whiffing the shots, not able to find the kill, and now has to stick the diffuser or go for the pick. It's not going to happen. Orbit onto match point.
Yeah, and so unfortunate right there. That could have been a huge swing, and one that could have been really unlucky, but Wimpy going huge in that round, able to find 3. That 2-piece basically won them the round right there, and he's the one that stepped it up. Look at him, 8-2 right now, having a series for himself, and Giddy continuing to hold it forward. And I mean, you just look at the scoreboard right now. Arial Rise Academy are getting cooked.
They're on the back foot, Joe. There's not much else to say, truthfully, is AAA are they have nothing to lose at this point. This could be the first time in 2 seasons of SFCL that we do not see the AAA team in Grand Finals and winning the whole thing. Orbit are 1 round away from getting victory and revenge against AAA, who made them play all 5 games of the regular season, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to ensure that AAA go home tonight. They've been fragging out well, the team play has been there, Wimpy is showing up in a massive way, and that is always something that is going to help out this Orbit roster. If they're all firing on all cylinders, they've looked great, their information has been played very well. I love what I'm seeing from Orbit currently, and they might even be my favorites to go and win the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember your bracket over there. I saw it on Twitter. Nice little bracket. You're
my
2 for
bracket
2.
had AAA winning, but now I might be getting bracket
right.
busted.
It might be.
I,
you know
I
what?
debated between Orbit and AAA for so long because, like, of how close
It's
these
tough.
2 teams play. But I was like, you know what? I just give AAA the edge and the guns. I think that they, as long as they show up shooting, I took that risk. They didn't. And Orbit's team play and strategy has just been better throughout this entire series, I feel like.
Yeah, but let's Also, I want to say it's not over yet because
No,
this
of course
was
not.
Skyscraper. It was a big lead for Orbit, and on their attacks, it was not great. And obviously, looking a lot better this map than they had been on Skyscraper. But at any given moment, I suppose, because Arial Rise Academy, they came back on Skyscraper winning 6 straight rounds, and right now they're going to need something similar to that as Orbit are kind of just having their way with them at the moment. But Ariel Rise Academy, I like a little bit better than what they're doing right now because they're not giving up the space this time. They're not allowing Orbit to really do whatever they want. They're contesting the areas that Orbit are pushing, and that's something really important right here as Kento not able to capitalize on that and gets taken down. Ends up getting traded as Giddy finds one as well. That's the trades going through. Ashen getting one. Wimpy taking 2 down with them. It's Giddy finding the kills, and Arial Rise Academy, for the first time in their existence, have been bounced before the grand finals.
Wow. Orbit just coming out of nowhere, going all around